to Leitner. Puts it up.
You're listening to the Culture State Podcast.
Get ready. Woo!
All right, welcome to the best podcast you will listen to this week. I said it. It is the Culture State Podcast being brought to you right here by Capital Broadcasting and the Podcast Network. You can watch us on YouTube. You can watch us on WRL Sports Plus, and you can also listen to us through podcasting. I am Chris Lee. That is my man, Dennis Jamel Cox.
That's right. I'm over here. He's over there. By the way, what you said about this being the best podcast you're going to listen to this week, put it down. That's right.
Put it down. Let's
Put
do
down.
it. And for the Carolina fans out there, North Carolina Tar Heel fans, we have one that's special for you today. We're talking to Brandon Robinson, of course, former player who, after his playing career, decided that, hey, you know, I want to go into coaching. And so he was on the bench this past year with the North Carolina Tar Heels as they were making their run towards the national championship. He has a lot of insight on a lot of the things that were happening towards the last days of Roy Williams, a lot of insight as to what was going on with the North Carolina Tar Heels behind the scenes as they're making their national championship run. Is there beef between Carolina coaches and Duke coaches? You know, there was a lot of things that kind of happened and transpired, and so we had a chance to catch up with him on a lot of different topics.
I want there to be beef, by the way, between the two. I want it. I want to sit here, feet propped up, popcorn, just sitting here watching, like, ooh, what's going to happen next? That's what I want to have happen.
But I think most fans want that as well. Yeah.
Here's the thing. I'm okay with, like, I get respecting your opponent is one thing, but it's okay to not like them. It's okay to be like, nah, I don't like you. I respect what you do. I'll be nice, whatever it is. Like when it comes to playing the game, sure. But nah, I'm going to beat you, man. I don't like you. I wish we had a little more of that. Just a little bit more of that. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with a little bit of controversy. To me, it's more entertaining.
You know what I hope comes out at some point? Not even something about whatever happened during the season or something during the regular season, right? Leading up to a Duke and Carolina game. I want to see maybe a video of like Sean May and let's say Emil Jefferson at the same hotel at Peach Jam, and they're getting their breakfast at the same hotel in the morning, and they bump into each other and it's like, yo, what's up, dog? You know? That type of thing, like in the middle of July. And that can build up all of everything until we get to February and March. And it'll just make it even better, right? Like, it'll be amazing to see if there's tension on the recruiting trail. I know there's not. Like, we know that most likely these guys are friends.
No, don't hold the elevator door. No, you go where you got to go. You know, you can take the next one. Nah, I'm shutting this door.
Close this door. Let me
close this door. No, you're like, hey, you're walking through a door. Like, you're supposed to hold the door for somebody. Nah, let it close, man.
You wanted the last French toast stick? Oh, no, I've got it.
This French toast steak, as you take a bite out of it, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Give me a little.
The last non-bruised banana for the continental breakfast? No, I've got that.
No, actually, what you do, if it's the last banana that's not bruised up, you bruise it up and you hand it to him.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's petty. Brandon Robinson joined us right here on the Culture State Podcast, and he's talking about reality. Get out of our fantasy world right now. We'll head into reality right now with Brandon Robinson.
All right, we had to get you some Tar Heel flavor right here on the Culture State Podcast, and former Tar Heel himself, and also spent some time on the bench as a coach for the North Carolina Tar Heels. Brandon Robinson joining us today. Brandon, thank you so much for your time. I think we have to start off, I think, with just the historic, magical run that the Heels had, beginning with winning at Cameron Indoor Stadium and ending with the Heels almost getting a national championship. I mean, you had a chance to win a championship as a player. Almost had it walked away with one as a coach. But just from your insight of being with the team, what was going on? Like, what kind of water did you guys drink? Like, what was going on between that last game at Cameron Indoor Stadium until you guys played Kansas in that national championship game?
I think we just kind of started clicking at the right time. And I always took one thing that Coach Williams said, you know, like going through the tournament, when you get in those games, you need a little bit of luck. And, you know, some teams that we had struggles with matching up with early in the season, we got a chance to avoid playing them. So I think that helped us out a lot too. But definitely winning that game at Duke gave us a lot of confidence. Just, there was I don't know what they're ranked. They're probably top 5 at the time we played them, but they had a lot of momentum, and then just the hype, the magnitude of that game, and being able to keep our emotions intact and controlled, and then also just like us being able to, you know, all the media stuff, the fanfare stuff that was going on that day, and how that was so big, being in the Final Four, that's kind of the same thing. So we're kind of already used to that going on.
Coming out of high school, you had Georgia Tech, Alabama, Auburn, Florida, other teams kind of going after you. What was it about the North Carolina Tar Heels and the opportunity to come to Chapel Hill that inspired you to want to come north and come to Chapel Hill?
Yeah, for me, just coming out of high school, I felt like when it's time for me to make my decision, it was really between like 3 schools. I grew up a Georgia Tech fan, but when it came down to like really sitting down with my family and making a decision, it was between Florida State, Louisville, and North Carolina. And for me, I always wanted to go somewhere that was a basketball school and had like a rich tradition of basketball. I wanted to go somewhere that had a family environment. And then also, like, I wanted to play for a coach that was going to be in the Hall of Fame. I wanted also somebody that coached me and like recruited me that played in the NBA. So they also checked that box because Coach Davis recruited me. We played the same position. So he played in the NBA for a long time. Then I also wanted to go somewhere like where they had connections beyond basketball. I didn't want to make just a 4-year decision. I wanted to make a 40-year decision, a lifelong decision. And just being on campus and then just being around a team, like I said, North Carolina checked every box for me. Just it's like that was like the only visit that I went on where like I really hung out with the whole team. Like every single thing that I did on my whole recruiting weekend, like I was with the whole team, and like that was a big like shock to me because like I had took other visits before I went to North Carolina, and that really wasn't a thing. So I'm like, okay, other schools are saying this is a family environment, but North Carolina really had that family environment because on the visit, like I said, the coaches were there, their wives and their kids were there. And I remember like my little brother and Coach Davis' son, they're the same age. So like they was hanging out with each other. And then just like my family, just being around the coaches' wives and just that big family atmosphere that checked all the boxes. And I feel like North Carolina actually put me in a position to do what I want to do now. I told Coach Williams kind of like from day one, like I want to be a coach when I get done playing basketball. And he was like, well, this is the perfect place for you.
From the time you finished, from the time you actually arrived, what did you learn about not only just basketball in this state and how big it is, but just about the state as a whole? Like, what did you learn and appreciate about this area that you enjoyed?
It's kind of crazy just because like growing up and stuff, like when I used to come home from school, like, or I used to either go outside and play basketball with everybody in my neighborhood, or I used to come home and I watch like Baller's Life videos. And every time I used to pull up a Baller's Life video, like it always used to be people from North Carolina playing, whether it was like Quincy Miller, um, Deuce Bello, John Wall, like all those like big schools in North Carolina playing. So I was always watching them. And then like even here, like basketball is big time in Georgia, and it's funny because like I started to realize the magnitude of how big North basketball is in North Carolina, how serious people take it. When I got to North Carolina, when I used to go up there and be like, Georgia, we got the best basketball. Like, nobody's seeing us. And then all the kids on the team from North Carolina, like they arguing with me, like talking to me crazy, like y'all ain't got no hoopers. We got this player, we got that player, we got this player, we got that player. And it was even funny. Like I was in Las Vegas at the summer league, like the last week, and I was standing there talking to Dayron and Kobe, and then Trey Murphy walk up, and he was like, "There's 3 North Carolina players right here in the NBA. Where you from?" And like, so they always wear that pride, and they always talking about hoop state, hoop state. So then when you take the account in college basketball, just us, Duke, Wake Forest, NC State, like all those schools right there, and then you got Central that has good basketball too. So it's like you got all these colleges that have pretty good teams and pretty good success over a long period of time right in this same area and not really too far away from each other. So me coming to North Carolina, that's when I started to really realize and like embrace the tradition of the basketball there.
Yeah, and there's a lot of players that came from North Carolina that maybe didn't even play basketball, is college basketball in the state. Bam Adebayo, Montrezl Harrell, those guys, enjoying, good time in the league. We lost Dennis, but I wanted to follow up on that with outside of like the basketball tradition in the state. What did you learn about the state just from a cultural standpoint? Maybe, between the hip hop, the fashion, food, that different type of thing. I mean, I don't know if there's certain foods that you fell in love with, or a cookout tray or something like that you fell in love with. But what was the difference with that, and that makes it such a special place for you?
I think it was pretty cool, just like kind of comparing it from Georgia to North Carolina. I think we got like similarities, but especially me being in Chapel Hill, I liked it a lot because I feel like it was more slowed down, not a lot of distractions, and I feel like campus was like good enough size where you can go everywhere, people know you, but it's not too much, and it's like people still treat you like a normal person. They don't treat you like a celebrity. So like, even though like people like you go to a restaurant and people looking at you and know who you are, they'll be respectful enough to wait till you finish eating to come up to you and like ask to take a picture. But I think it's funny because like when I talk about Waffle House to people in North Carolina, they look at me crazy when I say, "Oh, I can go to North Carolina." I mean, not North Carolina. I can go to Waffle House on a regular basis. Like I was arguing with one of my friends, and she was like, "You're nasty for eating Waffle House. Like you're weird for eating Waffle House." Just like on a regular basis. I'm like, well, that's what we do in Georgia down south, like really down south. Like people eat Waffle House on a regular basis. And I think like for them, I would compare Waffle House to like cookout. Like people just like cookout. That's their late night selection. If they're out somewhere, they go to cookout. So I think those are like the similarities. I think the toughest part for me is like coming to North Carolina versus being like in Georgia and being close to like Douglasville, being close to Atlanta. Like it's so many wing spots, and that's like one of my favorite foods to eat. And I felt like I never until like this past year, I never found like a wing spot that I could really go to and like really get that Atlanta taste of like wings and like how people prepare them, lemon pepper, all flats, like and stuff like that. Like I remember going to a couple wing spots in North Carolina, and I'd be like, "Can I get my wings all flats?" And people just look at me like I'm crazy. But I finally found a spot that like in North Carolina that take care of me when I like to eat wings. So I've started to embrace the culture a little bit more.
What's that spot?
I think it's like Tasty Stop or something in Durham.
Okay.
That's what it's called. Yeah,
By the way, I'm with you. I'm all about the flats when it comes to wings.
and that's the only way you're supposed to. You're supposed to when you eat wings, you get hot lemon pepper all flats, or you get lemon pepper all flats, and you got to get them like wet and crispy, like extra sauce on them. Like that was
Uh,
funny. I was eating at a restaurant the other day, and they brought me out some lemon pepper wings, and I was like, "Can y'all just like come bring me the sauce and like let me do it myself?" And I put it in like a bowl, and I was shaking it around. Like that, you gotta make sure it's right, man.
okay, well that's very much an Atlanta Lou Williams special. I'll just go and leave it at that.
And no, like no, like
Yeah,
seriously,
dead
like
serious though.
everybody that like in the Atlanta culture, basketball too, like they'll tell you like lemon pepper, all flats, wet, extra crispy. That's like a real thing. It's serious now here about that. And you have multiple wing spots you can go to. Like there's like 4 different wing spots that I go to like around like my house where I live at. And then in North Carolina, I only got one wing spot that I can really like consistently go to.
Okay. Well, try Sharky's in Raleigh. They actually have really good wings out there.
I'm gonna take your advice next time all right, I got you.
Yeah,
You're
Sharky's
gonna
in
have them
Raleigh.
going to hostile territory there.
No. It's fine. You're not that close to State's campus. It's okay. They're
Don't
not
worry about
hostile.
nothing.
Trust me, Brandon Robinson has never been threatened by anything around Raleigh. So trust me, he's doing just fine.
Never.
Have you ever lost to NC State since you've been there?
I did one time. We slipped
Just one
up.
time. Out of
We
like
slipped up. Like we
out of
slipped
like
up
what,
bad,
8
too.
times?
Yeah, but that one still haunt me though because we should never lost that game, and it was funny too because that game it was in Coach Keith's first year, and like when I tell you they beat us at home, that was like my sophomore year after us winning national championship, and a couple of their coaches were like talking crazy. It was like crazy, like after like to the student section to like our recruits and stuff. It was crazy. Yeah,
Wow.
we like that stuff up.
You have to appreciate the rivalries, though. Now, Chris asked you a question in regards like music and hip hop. Jermaine Dupri, is he an Atlanta hip hop guy? Or is he a North Carolina hip hop guy?
I'm gonna have to go Atlanta because
Atlanta.
I'm gonna be so real. I've never heard him associated with anything North Carolina.
Well, he's from North Carolina. I didn't know if you knew that.
He was from Atlanta. I never knew he was from North Carolina.
So
Yeah.
it's one of those situations where I think he was born in like Asheville or something like that. But when he was young, 'cause, his dad was in the industry and everything like that. His dad was in Atlanta. So I think most of his, it's kind of like Steph Curry in Akron, Ohio. Like he was born there. If you want to say like, yeah, he's from here. Okay, cool. But like everything that's about him and who he is North Carolina. Same thing with JD. Like he's Atlanta. He's Atlanta all day.
So let me ask you a question.
Mhm.
If you're him, are you gonna say I'm from Asheville or I'm from Atlanta?
Atlanta.
Atlanta.
There you go.
Atlanta.
There you go. You're gonna say you're from Atlanta. Come on now.
Yeah, Asheville's just
I
a
will.
stop on the way to Atlanta if you're coming from somewhere else, right?
Exactly.
Say too, the one thing that I like about North Carolina that reminds me like similar to like Georgia and Atlanta culture too is like everything like kind of like blends together between the fashion, the music, the sports, like all that stuff blends together, and I think that's like super cool. Like especially like J. Cole, like just him, just like I've seen J. Cole so many times, like just whether that's like him at our games or him like coming to work out at our gym. So like that was always cool just to see somebody that I listen to like a lot, like just being around and being a normal person. And I think you see a lot of that too in Atlanta where like high school kids, they have like Quavo pull up to their like high school basketball games because he's like big into watching high school basketball and like being around. He has his own AAU team. And I think like you have other rappers in Atlanta that like are associated with AAU teams that are always at high school games. So I think that's kind of cool too about North Carolina. How J. Cole is like one of the biggest artists in the world, and he's always involved in the community and with basketball.
I thought about this too, Dennis, to go off of your question. B.O.B. He was born in North Carolina, of course, also moved to Atlanta, so he's representing Atlanta. There's a lot of those, and I think Young Jeezy was like born in South Carolina, goes down to Atlanta. So there's a lot of Carolina to Atlanta connection out of that.
We don't count.
He doesn't count South Carolina. Yeah.
Georgia and North Carolina share a border. Everything else in between doesn't count.
Okay, I respect that.
Brett, let me ask you this. You talked about that the NC State thing from your sophomore year. Let me ask you about this past year. There was this a little incident. I think was it at your place or is it Cameron where I think it was at Cameron where Duke coaches didn't shake Hubert Davis's hand. Is that something that was overblown? Is there really like something going on between the two coaching staffs? Like what's happening with that?
I think it's overblown. I think it's blown way out of proportion. You know, like I said, the magnitude of that game and then what it was built up to be. And then, you know, for us, just like nobody believed that we could go over there and win that game just because of what happened when they came and played us on campus, like when we were at home and they embarrassed us. So we have all that emotion, and then they also have all this emotion of they're trying to honor their coach that's been there for such a long time in the right way. So it's two juggernaut programs going at each other, and we're both competitors and we're both competing at a high level, and the game is so emotional. So I think just everybody's emotions were involved, and it's nothing personal. It happens in sport sometimes. Like we all have played sports where sometimes our best friend, we get into it with them, almost go to blows. But 2 weeks, a week later, even a day or an hour later, we sitting there laughing, hugging, and it's mutual respect between each other. So I think it got blown out of proportion. I think for me, it's more of something the fans talk about than the coaches. Like that's like what the fans want to live up to just go at each other fan base. But I think for like coaches, it's not that deep. You know, it happened. It is what it is.
All right, my final question for you, as a former athlete turned coach. I'm same thing. I played lacrosse in college, coached collegiately for 9 years total. Take us into that mindset when you go into a rivalry game like that, like you're going into Cameron Indoor, being on the court as opposed to being on the bench as a coach. How does the mindset for you change going in, or do the emotions change, or is it like, nah, I hate those guys down there? Does that ever go away in any way, shape, or form?
That's a tough question because, like, honestly, like the times that I played at Duke, like as a player, I felt like that game where we played them last year in Coach K's final game was so much different than any other Duke game that I ever played in. Like, I remember like sitting on the bus and like usually like I'm the type of person like all my teammates will laugh at me for this, and I even do this to this day. Like when we used to get in the like on the bus, like we get on the bus, as soon as we pull out the tunnel and we get like out the parking lot and like get ready to make a right and go down Super Bowls to turn or whatever, I think it's now 5501 or whatever it is. Like by the time we get out the tunnel, like I'm asleep. I go to sleep every time I get on the bus. I don't know why, I just do. So like this time we get over there, I'm not asleep. So usually every time that we go to camera, like when I wake up, we right there about to get off the bus. Like I stayed up the whole way there, and I'm just like looking at traffic. And as soon as we get to Duke campus, you see so many people there. And I'm looking at like the people that's standing outside. I'm like, I've played in camera multiple times. They don't fit this many people in here. Like that's how many people were out there. And then like we're walking to go to the gym. I've never seen that many people like stand there. They always block it off with some ropes and you walk through the crowd. I've never seen that many people there. And it's like as soon as I got like in the locker room and I went upstairs like with some of the players on the court and they getting ready to shoot around, like you just felt that energy in the building and how like big that game was to like Duke fans. Like that game was so big to them, and I feel like for them they're in the mentality of like, are we about to blow them out just like we did when we played them in the Dean Dome. So like for me, that's why I say this game was so much different, just because like normally when you play Duke and North Carolina rivalry, like you never know what's going on. Like even like in the one of the worst seasons that we've had since I've been there when I played, like we should have beat Duke at home. Like we never went into the game where I felt like people were like, oh, they don't really have a chance. And it might be different because I was playing and I kind of toned all that stuff out when I played, and it's a little different now. Like it's hard for me. Like I'm always motivated for the games, but like now, like as a coach, like on the coaching side, I like to read stuff to get me motivated and hyped for the game. And like I always say certain stuff to the players. I'm like, oh, you see when they said this, just to like give them a little edge. But I feel like that Duke game was just so much different just because of all the stuff that was going around it. Just how they had so many former players come back, and then they made the little tunnel for Coach K to walk out through before the game. So like that was always crazy. But like for me to answer back, like to piggyback on your question, like when we go over the camera and when Duke comes to the Dean Dome, like we always try to like, we gotta put on, like we gotta not only for us, like as players, like we trying to win this game for bragging rights for ourselves, but we got to do this for our fan base and the former players and everybody that has put that jersey on before us. So it's like a huge deal to just, always just have that respect and those bragging rights.
As somebody from North Carolina, I definitely felt like that game was very different. A lot of it was because, I never saw a Duke game that the actual game, Duke and Carolina game, where the actual game was secondary to what was going on, right? It was always that was the main event. And I felt out there, I was out there when we were broadcasting, and I didn't think about this until I was there. And I saw what you were seeing, and I was like, this feels different. And then you see all those players, 96 players, all of the same shirts, who helped hang up all of those banners back there. And that was where I felt like Duke was in trouble, because it was like, this is a team full of freshmen who are going to carry the bulk of the weight. And there's immense pressure because this is this man's last game here in this building that he's going to coach. And look at all those players behind you who have won bigger games than this. And they're looking at you to close this out, the right way. And that's when I started feeling like, oh, I don't know if they can do this. And it had nothing to do with basketball on the court or anything like that. It just felt like crazy pressure. But I wanted to ask you this from the perspective of going from player to coach. I mean, you just finished up playing not too long ago. And, you were a 4-star coming out of high school. You dealt with injuries in college, but it felt like, one of those things where if you healed up, you could go on and you could have a nice career, try to fight your way into the NBA, maybe even find, get a lot of money overseas or whatever. What helped you with the decision to say, you know what, I'm done with playing. Instead of trying to go professional and playing, let me try this coaching thing out. What made you go to that so fast?
I was definitely a difficult decision for me to stop playing, and like even now sometimes I miss playing. And like for me, I love just getting out there, like when some of my old teammates come back and like they get done working out, and I just like hop in with them and just like work out, get shots up, or just play one-on-one. So like I still had a love for the game, and I still I miss playing it. But I think what made it so easy for me to stop playing is because like coaching has always been a passion of mine and something that I've always wanted to do. Like I didn't wake up one morning and be like, oh, I want to coach. Like I've been saying that I wanted to coach my whole life. Like everything that anybody that knows me, it's like everything that I've said from the time I've been a kid is I want to play in the NBA, and then when I get done playing in the NBA, I want to coach. So unfortunately, like I didn't get to accomplish my dream of playing in the NBA, but I think everything kind of happened for a reason. It's kind of weird, just like me being hurt my whole senior year and not being able to produce at like the level that I wanted to, and like being able to put together like stats and film so I could send to professional teams like overseas or just like even get a chance in the G League. And I felt like I was deserving of that, and I didn't get the opportunity. And I felt like if COVID didn't happen, I'd probably still be playing basketball to this day. But you know, COVID happened, and I was at home, like just trying to figure out where I was going to play at, and like the contracts didn't really make sense. The situations that like people wanted me to be in didn't make any sense. So like I'm sitting at the house one day, and I called my old AAU team, and I'm like, yo, can I just come watch y'all like practice? And they were like, man, do you want to help us coach? And I was like, sure. Like I was like, you know, this will be good for me to do because, you know, like I have some valuable like insight of where they're trying to go and where they're trying to get to, just because these guys were juniors in high school. So that next fall they're going to be making decisions on where they wanted to go to school. So, you know, I started doing that, and I like really loved it. And then kind of Coach Davis caught wind of it that I was helping coach AAU, and they asked me to come back. And when Coach Davis called me and asked me to come back, like it kind of like I talked through it with my dad, and I told Coach Davis on the phone, I was like, you know, give me like a day or two to like really decide what I'm gonna do. I talked to my dad, and I promise you, like 20 minutes, 30 minutes later, I called him back, and I was like, I'm coming. Like this is something that I really want to do, and like I'm really embracing it. You know, like I study film all the time. I like read books on coaching, leadership. I listen to podcasts. I just try to just embrace like everything and all aspects of it to be a coach. So like I'm not doing this just to do it. Like I'm really doing it because it's a passion of mine. It's something that I really want to be great in.
All right, we want to thank my guy, Brandon Robinson, for joining us right here on the Culture State Podcast. Very insightful interview as far as what he has going on, what was going on with the North Carolina Tar Heels. But I just can't help but to think if he decided, you know what, let me give this playing thing one more go, that we'd be seeing him doing numbers overseas, maybe even in the G League, and maybe even getting that two-way to show us what he can do on an NBA level. So, I mean, he was really good. He was hampered with injuries his last couple years at Carolina. So I know things didn't turn out the way he wanted it to turn out, but he's a guy who was a really good shooter, really good athlete, and definitely could have offered a lot, but he's definitely going to offer a lot to kids in this coaching realm as well.
It was fun hearing him give the perspective of being the player on the court in big games, like Final Four games and such, as well as what it's like being on the bench. As someone who's a former athlete, now former college coach myself, is the dynamic of how you handle that situation completely changes. Even though the situation it may be the same or very similar, how you handle it and what you do, two totally different things, because as a player, you have a level of control. As a coach, yeah, you can direct and give instruction, but otherwise it's completely out of your hands. So it's so different. Like how you handle that situation on the sideline is generally, I have found, is how your athletes are going to handle it.
Make sure you subscribe, give us 5 stars, all that good stuff. Write in. If you're watching this on WRL Sports Plus and you've been enjoying this, write in and say, hey, we need more of this Culture State Podcast. It goes a long way, trust us.
Oh, also, one thing real quick as well for all the beautiful people out there that are watching and listening to this. Culture State Saturdays is coming back, people. That's right.
Hey,
10 to
live
noon.
On your radio.
Exactly, 10 to noon, and on WRL Sports Plus streaming.
Yes.
10 to noon, Saturday, starting Labor Day weekend, September 3rd. Chris and I, throughout the fall, back on live, 10 a.m. to noon on Saturdays. You never know, we might show up at some football games, doing some live shows at some games, like, hey, Greenville might be showing up to you when NC State's there, week 1. Just saying, Chris and I might be out there.
More information coming. Make sure you follow us on our social medias to get all of that. At Chris Lee TV, at The Fan Rookie, at Culture State Pod. We'll see you next week.
The Culture State Podcast, part of the Capital Broadcasting Podcast Network, with new shows coming out every Wednesday. Download and subscribe from wherever you get your podcasts, including the WREL Sports Fan app.